All right, guys, trying to get ready to go get this new plasma table, and so I thought I'd just show you a little bit of the work I'm doing to get ready for that. Curly, my Australian mate, pretty much, jumped on me pretty good there and said I sounded like I was making a bunch of excuses, and he was right. So just got to get out here and get it done. Sometimes I'll take the easy way out and do what's easy rather than invest the time short term to get some gain long term. And anyway, so you see all this cluster of stuff over here, it's got to go. So the mill right here is 220. You can see the 220 back there behind it. For a long time, I've had a need to get rid of this grinder and get it away from that lathe right there. A lot of people have pointed that out. It's just really bad practice to have a grinder right next to it. Now, the good thing is I don't sit at this thing and grind on it for hours. Just occasionally I'll use it maybe 2 or 3 times a week just to deburr something or whatever. I'm not making knives on it. But anyway, so I've got options with that. I could move that right here, and I used to have it here and plugged in there, and it really just was annoying. That drop down cord just proved to be always in the way, always a hassle, and I really don't want to have to use that. So what the plan is I'm going to take the grinder and move it just on the other side of this pole, and it's kind of getting it away from the headstock, and there's a beam right there that'll separate it a little bit, and we still have 220 right there, which that grinder is 220, and I'll still have room there for the plasma table. I just need the plasma table's 4 feet this way, and it's maybe 5 feet with everything, and I'm going to leave that bandsaw there. It's just it's too big. I can't lift it with a gantry crane because there's just not enough height. And it's a big, awkward, heavy thing for sure. So, but we can get the other stuff cleared out and moved over here, and then we'll take a look at the electrical. I got my plasma cutter unplugged and just sitting there for the time being, and kind of cleaned up and straightened up over here, coiled up that ground, which we'll no longer need because over here I'm at the fuse box, and there's a ground, the main ground coming into the fuse box. I'm just going to tap off of that. It's not the same as having a dedicated ground rod, but it's pretty dang close. I'll pull a dedicated ground to ground the cable from where the ground bus of the fuse box. I've got some, I'll probably just double up on, I think I've got some number 10 or number 8, something here, ground wire. Let me see what it is. It's number 10. So I'll probably just pull 2 of those to it and ground the table. And this was not a heavy ground anyway. I don't know what that is, a number 6, I believe. But it's a solid copper. So anyway, so the 3-phase, I'm just going to reuse this plug over here. And the good thing is that I don't really need to bend the conduit because I can come straight down out of there, and I've got a couple of extra boxes. I know it's not ideal, but I can come straight down into a little, just a 2-way box, and use that to make the transition with. And then I just need a straight run coming down here a little bit. Or I could just do a straight run of conduit and then have a flex go up into it. Either way, I just don't have a conduit bender, and I probably should invest in one, and making a bend like that should be pretty easy. I could do something like this too. I also did this work where I bought a pre-bent piece of conduit and just pieced it like that. So, with the connectors. So I could do something like that. But anyway, so let me get going. I'm not going to show you the moving, but in order to get that mill moved over here, you see I got this thing in the way, and so I had to take a gantry crane and sort of work it through. It will fit through that way and around that table and back in over there. So and that'll get that mill moved out of the way. So I may just come and show you a little bit along the way. I'm not going to just film all this. You guys have seen me move stuff around before. It's kind of a pain to keep moving the camera and whatever. So let me get going, and I'll come back and show you what we end up with. Okay, so my planer joiner combo unit is also a 220, and my table saw that I just moved there is a 3-phase, and this is a single phase 220. So I'm just going to repurpose that outlet over there for what I need here with 3-phase. And the plug that the table saw goes into is right there. So I'll just take that plug out and block off that plate, because I'm not going to have anything there, and twist off the wires and tape them up, or put wire nuts on them, and repurpose it over there, and just use, even though that's got a number 6 wire, way more than it needs. It's there and it's 3-phase, and I can run the table saw off of it. This guy, like I said, is 220. And I built this thing, little caster table base thing for it a while ago. So possibly I can move it around if needed. It was funny, I always thought that plasma table, oh, I know it did. I had to shim up this side right here a lot. And you can definitely see by the way that table saw is sitting how much the concrete is slipped that way right in that area. I'll double check and make sure I didn't get anything underneath one of the legs, but I need to get this thing comes with a post, or maybe even 2 posts on this out table here. And I need to get those because this thing's really off balance. It's cantilevered out here with a lot of weight, unsupported. So I need to do something about that for sure. All right, so let's get this over. For now, while it's not being used, just like it was sitting over there, I'll keep it. Let me turn it around the other way. We'll keep it there. And if I need to use it, I can just drag it out here and park it there and use my 220 extension cord drop. And I've got a 25-foot heavy duty welder extension cord. I could hook it up, but I don't really use that stuff that much, I mean, it's been, maybe once every couple, 2-3 months do I turn on anything doing any woodwork, and it's just interesting how very little I do use it. So next, let's get the mill and move it, and I'll come back and show you a little bit of that. And then let me just stick this back over here by the roll-up door here, just to keep it out of the way. That's where I normally keep it, is right there when I'm not painting. So we'll show you more in a second. All right, so did a little cleaning up over here and got that thing lifted up, and it's going to go over here. I'm going to move the grinder out like we talked about. I'm going to take that welder and move it here where the grinder is, and maybe scoot this one down a little bit as well. The only drawback to putting it here is you can see all my grinder stuff, but as long as I leave enough room I can get around back there behind it, it should be fine. This area may get a little crowded. You don't want to put too much stuff around this mill, but I got the table mostly slid over that way, so right now, so that kind of helps take up the space. And so let me move this stuff around and we'll get this moved over here and come back and show you what that looks like. All right, here's one good reason not to have your gantry crane to be so wide. You can work it around, move stuff around the shop. If this was like super wide, I wouldn't be able to get over here with it. So whenever I do put the new beam on it, I need to, I was just looking at that, man. It looks like it's really leaning that way, like this side's kind of kicked in a little bit. Anyway, so when I put the wider beam on to be able to fit it around the trailer and all that, I need to, I'll have to, if I ever have to move anything over here again, I'll have to come up, I'll just maybe save that one and unbolt it and bolt the new beam in. I don't know. That's kind of weird though, how that's leaning that much. I don't know if it's the concrete's just sloped right in there or what. And you guys probably doesn't show it too much on camera, but it looks like I'm going to be able to get this parked here, maybe, and get this welder stationed in here and not have any, issues getting back to my stuff there for the most part. Kind of reach or walk around, have a space to walk back through there and reach back and get it. And I can move all that stuff too, but I kind of like where it is. All right, I think that's gonna work out pretty good. I still have to slide that back in there, and I left this out a little bit so that the table, is not interfering with this when I get it in there. Now, originally, I had 3 50 amp 220 welder breakers, outlets here. One for MIG, one for TIG, one for plasma cutter. I never use the plasma cutter. It's just a manual one. I've used it like 3 times ever. If anybody wants that, let me know for a good price if you're fairly local, because it's just sitting here and I hate to just have it. But no, my luck, first time I get rid of it, I'll need it for something. But if you want the plasma cutter or that, Jonathan was going to get this and then he changed his mind and got something else instead. So I still have that. Nothing wrong with it. Works great. I'm kind of on the fence about selling it because someday my bandsaw may break down and, you know, I need to whip that bad boy out to make some cuts with. So I may hold on to that as a backup. But anyway, I'm happy with all that. It's good to pull that stuff out and get it cleaned up. And got our table saw there. Dust collection, you know, port there, and of course there's one there. And I got dust collection that was, you know, coming over to the table saw, and I kept the pipe that runs along the floor just out of the way. And I still have it. It's right there, so I could, if I need it, hook this up and bring it over here. Now, one thing about, since I've done this, a couple thoughts. One is, you know, I have dust collection right here. What about turning my table into instead of a water table, into a downdraft, and using my dust collector to pull all the fumes and stuff out of it? Maybe bore some 4-inch or 6-inch diameter holes in the bottom of the water table and hook up dust collection to each one of those so that it's pulling evenly across the table. I don't know, just a thought. I probably won't do that. I really like the water table from the standpoint of, if you keep it full, you almost have no smoke at all. I mean, it just barely, just a little bit of smoke. So I really like that part of it. But I do want to run a permanent water source to it and a drain as well. I want to drain, I'm going to do that this time. I'm going to put a drain in it and a pipe going outside, and then maybe once a week just cycle the water through it, you know, and that way I'll have water plumbed to it. I won't have to drag the hose in. It'll be a matter of undraining it, letting it drain out, and I got to figure out what to do out back where to drain it to, and filter it through some kind of filtration, and you know, to collect the sediment and all. And then when it's empty, just grab the dropouts, throw them away, you know, in the scrap bin, and then fill it back up. Just maybe do that every Monday morning, you know, just standard business practice, shop practice maintenance, or maybe do it on Friday so it's ready to go Monday kind of thing, or Saturday, whatever. But without the table, it really opens things up in here, you know. Of course, I got things jammed up over here a little bit now, but I'll get those into place. I could almost run that table long ways this way, the 8-foot section running across there, and save even more space. But I'm thinking about just running it this way and yeah, never mind. What am I thinking? It's got to go this way because of the gantry crane loading and unloading sheets. That was the whole deal. So want to have enough space to keep it away from this, and need to be able to get the gantry crane on both sides of it. So it's probably going to go pretty much dead in the middle right there is what I'm thinking, to allow equal space. I can't think of a reason why not to. So anyway, guys, pretty happy with how things are working out, and thanks to Curly for giving me the nudge. Sometimes, man, it's easy to get in a rut, and you just keep doing what you're doing, and it'll make it so much easier. And one thing I've never shown this because I'm kind of embarrassed about it, but I put these plates on here when I moved down to the shop, and I drilled and tapped and manually machined these. And if you notice right there that caster is on there crooked, and it's crooked on both sides. So it's part of my frustration with using this thing, because it's crooked. It will roll, but it wants to roll crooked with you. So I don't know what to do about that. I welded those plates to the tube, and so I may just unbolt it and weld those casters to the actual plate instead of bolting it. That's about all I can think to do to fix that. EcoMouse Design talked about doing one of those V casters that like a gate uses, and putting some angle iron in the floor here so it'll track evenly, but it's going to be offset a little bit. It won't be an exact straight shot. It'll be fairly straight, but this door is a little more over that way, and you know, so it's going to have to make a, it's going to have to come in and make a little jog that way to get on it. But that's a whole lot better and a whole lot easier than maneuvering this thing around and navigating all this stuff over here. So now I got to go get me some electrical stuff, a little bit of conduit and some number 6, and we'll get this figured out over here, what we need to do. And I'll pull that plug out and switch it out, put that one over here so I can use the table saw, and take that plug out and put it over here. Those plugs are not cheap. They're that 3-phase 60 amp one that's in that is probably about 30, 40 bucks, something in that range. So I think I can get enough stuff to do this with for maybe 50 bucks or less. And the airline stuff, I have what I need for that. I have everything I need to put a T in up there and drop some air over here. So that will not be too much of an issue. So, all right, guys, I'll come back and show you when I get more done, and we'll go from there. Went and got the stuff I need to get this wired up over here. So I already had a couple of things. The box I had laying around. So that's some 1-inch EMT conduit and some number 6 wire, multi-strand, I believe. And so I just need about, I think it's about 12 feet down there or so. And I think I got 60 feet of wire, because I need a ground wire in there. And no, I think I got 80 feet. I can't remember. I got enough to do what I need to do. But anyway, so let me show you over here. I got the panel off. And what I like to do is lick my finger and go ahead and touch these real quick and check to see which ones are on versus not. And that'll let you know really quick what you're working with. Anyway, so this is that 60 amp breaker for the plasma. And you can see the number 6 lines coming in there. And this is the 20 amp breaker that the table saw was connected to. So I'm going to take the 60 amp breaker and move it to there, the 20 amp breaker and move it to there. The only problem with it is the 60 amp breaker is made to take these big wires in there, and a 20 amp breaker, it's made a little differently. I think I can make it work, but we'll see how that goes. But so I'm gonna move the 60 amp over here and take these wires and pull them down and just tie them off down here and tape the ends of them up. And I'm gonna put a flat blank out panel on this outlet here, and just label on there what it was and that the wires are in here. And that way a year from now when I come going trying to figure out what's what, I'll know what it is. And maybe I can use those wires another time for something, you know, some other project. I'm about full here, but anyway, so that's the plan. I'm not going to show it. I'll just come back here in a little while. Like I said, I'm slow with this kind of stuff. And once you've, you know, touched your fingers and touched a couple of wires, you know, it kind of messes your mind up, and things don't go fast anyway. So yeah, let me get working on it, and I'll come back and give you guys an update here in a little bit. Okay, so I got that 30 amp out of there, and I just made a note on the block off plate saying it's not connected, and there's 3-phase wires in there, and then here's the wires over here that we will tape off and just fold down neatly out of the way and get them down to the bottom down there. They're not live now, so. And then we'll move on and take this outlet here that was for the table saw, and we'll move it over there where the plasma table was, and take the plasma table outlet and move it over here to our new stuff. All right, so this was our old plasma connection here, and you see the number 4 wires coming in. Obviously the lugs not really big enough for that, so what I did was just made a little pigtail up for each one and wire nutted it in. And I've seen that on this old house, so if it's on there, it's got to be the code, right? Okay, so we've completed part 1. I ended up with quite a bit of extra cord because of where I had the table before was out in the middle of the floor, and when I used it, I had a long cord I could drape across and plugged it in, but I normally kept it unplugged. And I'll kind of have the same thing here. You know, if I'm just doing short boards or whatever, I can leave it here kind of tucked in a little bit. And I can just keep it permanently like this because this table here is on casters, and I could easily move that out of the way for long boards and you know, this thing's on a cart so I can move it out. So it actually could stay right there. I could shorten that cord up, but I might as well just keep it. It's kind of coiled up there. So let's check it out and see. I just flipped the breaker on over there. Got the 20 amp breaker wired in. This is the 50 amp breaker that goes with the plasma cutter, and the 50 amp outlet that we'll be getting set up over there. But I think we're all set. So let's see if we got the thing running the right way. And it does seem to be running the right way. So old girl's got some squeaks, and I put this zero insert thing in here, and it's still kind of cutting its own path, so you can kind of hear it on startup. And that blade, the spindle's got a little run out in it as well. So anyway, but it's just an old Powermatic. I think it's a 7-horse. Oh, can't remember the size of it, but anyway, so now let's get our box mounted, run some conduit up, and reinstall our 50 amp breaker and pull some number 6 wire for that, and see if we can get it, get the plasma cutter moved over there and powered on. There's the big, massive connector and SO cord on it. All right, so we got our conduit pulled here, and was just getting ready to hook everything up to our outlet here, receptacle. And we know that center pole is ground, but which one's L1, L2, and L3, and what's the arrangement of it? So I had to take this apart, the case off the plasma cutter, and they actually give you the L1, L2, and L3 there, and take that off and see what colors go to what. So now I have it marked, kinda. That's L1, L2, and L3, sort of marked on there. And then over here on the breaker, pop that out, see which one of, notice they did label it 1, 2, and 3, L1, 2, and 3. And depending on what position your breaker's in, it could be, you know, the center one could be L1 or whatever, but this is how it is. The top one is L1, center's L2. Well, I guess the center's L2 on all of them. It's just a matter of which one's L1 and L3. So on a motor, you know, no big deal. You just hook it all up, and if it's running in reverse, you just reverse 2 wires and you're good to go. But on hooking up this plasma cutter, I didn't want to take a chance on that. You know, if you got 2 wires reversed, I don't know what the consequences of that are. So just spending the extra time, make sure we get it mapped out exactly right. And luckily this is the only stuff in here, and I got plenty of conduit size to be able to pull from one end to the other and kind of see which wire's which once I got it in there. And then here's a ground wire that goes directly to the ground bus, and I left that to connect to the table. Now that's, you know, the instructions say drive a ground rod near the table and connect it directly to ground. I mean, we're 10 feet away right here, and we're connected into the ground bus, which is the same as a ground rod in the ground. So, you know, it's not exactly like the instructions say. Over here I did it correctly just because it was so much further away. And I may, if we have any issues, you know, I'll go ahead and drive a ground rod in and on the outside and run a cable, run a copper through, or just move this copper, I guess, and spray some foam in that hole there. So anyway, let me get this finished up here and we'll see if it powers on. All right, well, we got it all buttoned up there, and I'm gonna get ready to plug that in and power it on and see what we got. So I'm gonna turn the breaker on first here. And guys, I mean, this is a live panel I've been working in here, and it's probably not recommended, but just be careful and do what you gotta do. Anyway, I'm gonna flip this on, and I just ask you, if this thing goes completely dark here when I flip this, you'll know something bad has happened. If you guys could send somebody out to check on me, you know, because I live here alone and nobody ever comes around. So all right, let's flip it and see what happens. All right, I got you. Okay, so talk about your clickbait, man. How about that click of the breaker and a little clickbait action of a different kind there? Now look, I mean, somebody said you only had one job to do. Get this conduit level. I even got the level out. But when you're trying to hold a level and you're trying to screw something in at the same time and you're only one guy, you know what? It's not exactly level. You can see it kind of rises up right there a little bit, but that's going to be all right. Hopefully Eco Mouse Design is not watching, because he's going to hate that. All right, let's plug it in and see what we get here. Man, that's a big old cord there. Okay, so far so good. No sparky sparks. So let's flip it on. We're probably going to get error messages on the display, but yeah, we got some green lights. We got an error code, probably a couple of error codes on it because we don't have air on. And what else? Probably just for the air. So I gotta work on the air, and I'll show you guys that. But I'm gonna wrap it up on this video. If you've been watching all this time, then appreciate it. And big thanks to Curly. You know, he just, you guys don't ever hesitate to give me a nudge when you think I need it. But just be gentle about it. You know, you don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to be an asshole. Just say, hey man, it sounds like you're making some excuses, and you really need to kind of use this opportunity to get your house in order. And so I've got I know I said I'm gonna end the video, but one other thing I'm gonna do to make this really nice, I've got a water outlet or water thing there, spigot, whatever you call it, faucet. So it's just on the other side of this wall. So I'm gonna plumb in some PEX and either go up and over, probably go up and over into that channel right there and down, and drop some water over here to the table. And then I was gonna run a drain straight out the back, but I forgot the paint booths right there. So I'm gonna have to run a drain down along that wall and out at the corner, which works out pretty good, because where that will come out at is at my drain area for the groundwater, or for the roof water run out. You guys may have remember seeing this. And yeah, I know I still got a mess out here, and I still don't have the paint booth finished. I got to get some lights. That's really all that's left on that. But you see the corner of the building was where I'm talking about bringing that bringing the water out and let it run here. So but here's my concern. You know, I'm in the country. There are no, you know, EPA out here or regulations or anything like that. Does that water, the sludge, you know, contaminants, the sediment, the sludge stuff that's in that water, does that pose any kind of environmental issue? My thought is that it's just metal, right? Because, you know, it's just what you've cut through. You know, it's the powderized metal, and metal in the form of iron ore, you know, comes from the ground. So just kind of putting it back where it came from, and water. Or are there some kind of contaminants that get in there as well? I mean, just because I'm in the country and I could do that doesn't mean I want to intentionally, you know, be environmentally unfriendly. I don't want to just dump something that's harmful right here next to the shop and create a big mess. But if it's just metal, you know, and no big deal, right? You're just putting it back in the ground where it came from. So I'd be curious what you guys think about that. So just a quick wrap up here. We got our belt grinder moved down here. I'm still thinking about putting it over here. I just, you know, I don't like that idea of having it over there, but it would be nice to have it there. This I ended up rearranging a little bit after you guys last saw it. I gotta get that strap off of there. Yeah, I know I got drawers open and everything, but I originally had this welder here in that slot, but that creates an issue because this stupid thing has the power button on the back of it. And of course you got to get back there to the gas as well. And, you know, I needed just some room to kind of cut around both sides of that here to get the drills and all that. And that's worked out pretty good. I've gone up there several times while I've been out here working on the other stuff. And I've only, I've only racked myself 3 times on that knob sticking out there. But other than that, no big deal. Okay, guys, it is end of the day, Saturday. Tomorrow morning, I'll be heading out to go drive to Tennessee to get the plasma cutter. So anybody see have any thoughts or anything on any of the stuff I talked about, be sure to let me know. Thanks, guys. See you.